Unfortunately, there's too many people around me currently that have cancer, and I've gone into some relatively deep dives in trying to figure out what types of remedies, exercise programs, diets of all interventions can work to help some of my friends that currently have cancer, and also how do we prevent ourselves from becoming candidates for cancer. All of the research that I have done was quite nicely brought together by this one association study. And the study was done in 2016, was on JAMA, which is a pretty prestigious journal, some would say. And it measured the risk of 26 types of cancer in 1.44 million adults. It's association, so it's not cause and effect. They're trying to draw correlations. And basically, what they discovered was the more active you are, the more likely your risk for cancer can be. So I think low activity is considered 10 to 15 minutes a day, moderate activities about 30 minutes a day, and then high activities between 60 to 90 minutes a day. The mean age, the average age of the respondents, this wasn't, so because of association, people in these studies, it's observational and it's completely based off of the response and the generosity of the people being tracked. And they would basically say, hey, this is my activity level, and we take their word for it. For the most part, there are confounding variables. There are many with most studies, but because it's 1.5 million people almost, I'm going to give this study some benefit over doubt that your activity and how much activity you do on a weekly basis does have, this looks like, pretty significant benefit to cancer reduction. So let me kind of go through quickly the type of cancer reduction that improves when you exercise or move. It's called, it's called leisure association of leisure time physical activity with risk of 26 types of cancer in 1.44 million adults. There are a lot of scientists on this, so I'm going to record and pay homage to them in the end. But basically, let me go through like the top 10 of the most, well, actually, they have top 15 in terms of activity and impact on cancer reduction. The esophageal area, minus 42%. Maybe because that has to do with breathing. I have no idea. Your liver, very important, right? Liver is such an important aspect of your body, minus 27%. Risk reduction. Lung, risk reduction, 26%. Kidney, 23%. Gastric, cardia, 22%, minus 22%. Endometrial, minus 21%. Myeloid leukemia, minus 20%. Myeloma, minus 17%. Colon cancer, which is so common now. I'm not sure why. I'm sure everyone has their thoughts on why, but regardless of what your history is, if you move more, you can reduce colon cancer at minus 16. I had my colonoscopy 5 years ago. I experimented with being vegan, and somewhere along the line, I turned, borderline anemic, and my iron level went down. It's very complicated because trying to get enough of the macronutrients correct in your diet when you're not cooking yourself can be tricky. And that's a whole chapter on itself. But anyways, I'm pretty much on a Mediterranean diet right now, and everything's good to go. And that period of my life when I was vegan, I was running a lot of races and I was just using up a lot of my iron, and I had completely eliminated meat from my diet. And that's where I was getting a lot of iron. And I was also drinking a lot of tea. I wasn't drinking coffee. And tea tea is neutralizes non-heme iron from vegetables. So I had to make some adjustments. I'm good now. I'm not a big supplement, guys, everyone. I actually don't take any supplements. The only time I take supplements, sorry for this tangent, but you guys are probably, if you're listening to this, you probably know me a little bit better now. It's the only two supplements I take are creatine, and that's specific to when I have big races, and sometimes iron if I become super iron deficient, and that's it. I've experimented with some supplements, but I'm a fan of ginseng, actually, but we'll get into that sparingly, not every day. I don't take anything every day. I don't believe that everyday supplements is the right way to go, in my opinion. When I was at Cornell, they basically, it's not even basic. It's like the viewpoint for supplements was quite simple. Most supplements don't work. Now, back to that list. Sorry for the tangent. Myeloma minus 17%, right? Colon cancer minus 16. That's a big deal, guys. All right. Just on that one alone, I think for us men, at least, is so worth it. Rectal minus 13, bladder minus 13%, breast cancer minus 10. I do know with high level of certainty, and I actually have this on my spreadsheet of one of the topics to cover. There is another study that specifically for women with breast cancer who beat cancer, I do know for a fact that exercise can actually prevent cancer from returning for women with breast cancer up to 50%, I believe, with this type of exercise. My mother had breast cancer, and so I can attest to that protocol. And I think it's really important for us, all of us who are in this 45 to 55 range, to really take our diet seriously, our exercise. We need to take it seriously. This is no longer like we're out of the grace period. We got to go. So that's why I'm kind of doing this every day. If I can help one of you, great. Two of you, great. At least I feel like I'm productive with my life, because I do know a lot of protocols that can be helpful to people, and I'm passionate about this. This is, and it also keeps me in check to make sure that I'm in line with my own health values. These are values and objectives. So in the case of exercise, reducing the risk of breast cancer minus 10%, melanoma 27%. Actually, sorry. In this study, and guys, just kind of take it easy here and let's not be too critical. Melanoma increased by 27%, and prostate increased by 5%. Everything else decreased. Melanoma went up, prostate went up. My guess, I'm totally speculating, is melanoma is because you're outdoors. Look at me. I mean, I'm outdoors all the time. And sometimes certain people are more, I have a darker skin tone naturally, but people who are maybe lighter are more subjective to the sun and its deleterious effects on skin for prolonged amounts of time. But I also think it's exposure and period of time you're exposed to the sun. But I'm not a dermatologist. My cousin is. She can speak to this. Maybe we'll be lucky to have her in one of the episodes. And then an increased prostate by 5%. I think the prostate situation is really interesting, and I would like to use a future episode to dig a little bit deeper in why prostate cancer actually increased by 5%. Good question for us to investigate in the future. But for the most part, the risk of cancer most definitely went down significantly. And I think if you're in my age group, you're starting to get friends that are like, hey, this happened. Know someone with stage 3, stage 4. For us guys, colon cancer is a big one. Rectal, prostate, these keep popping up. And there are many interventions out there. It's all over the place. And it seems to me that there is some work done out of USC by Dr. Valter Longo in the gerontology. I believe he's head of gerontology there. That's been studying this diet called the fasting mimicking diet, where some people with stage 4 have seen some efficacy. He's got a book called The Longevity Diet. I bought that book years ago, and I just re-listened to it again this morning. I have 2 really close friends. One of them is close. Another one is a close friend's wife. They're going through it. And I'm just trying to figure out if I can be helpful while helping others. The other interesting thing about Dr. Valter Longo's work is he's doing a lot of the tests on lab rats. I'm going to try to pull up. I just want to do his fasting mimic diet in a separate episode, but maybe I'll put something about him and his book in the show notes. You guys can reference that. But he's tested a lot of these fasting protocols on mice, and he's done them in these unique periods of time. So fasting mimic diet is FMD is the type of is a product he created, and then he has a longevity diet, and he utilizes 5 pillars to measure to help measure longevity, and obviously one of those pillars I'm pretty certain is diet. And I encourage you to look up that book if you know someone who has cancer, is going through cancer, is in stage 4 cancer, this may be helpful. And that's my quest. In my work, in my education for exercise prescription at UConn, there was a specific course we took that included special considerations for cancer patients. And the takeaway from that course was very simple. Hands, it's 100% exercise is a cancer patient's best friend because it helps keep the muscles strong. And the muscles is always competing for, unfortunately, glucose, which the tumors take in. So the tumors love glucose. So exercise allows the muscles to kind of compete a little bit better with the tumor. And there's some evidence from the research I've done, and some obviously based off of these incredible scientists, that fasting has an effect on how the tumor actually develops. So on one hand, you can say you can starve them. On the other hand, you can say, this is my personal interpretation. This is not my area of specialty. So please take it with a grain of salt. This is a heavy topic and I don't want to misrepresent anything, but this is my interpretation. And with exercise, you give yourself an edge on competing with the tumor for that same glucose, effectively preventing it from having the energy, having the fuel source to keep growing. And these are topics I'm going to cover in the future. I think for our age group, guys and gals, this is super important. Dr. Valter Longo also talks about not overeating. Makes complete sense. And he also talks about not eating too much protein. And he believes that our intake of protein, if it's too high, it can actually cause cancer. So I agree with him. That's my personal take. I think most of us are eating too much protein for our own good. And to his point, there are different types of protein. Different types of amino acids related to protein. So just because you're eating protein doesn't mean you're getting the same type of amino acids. And you may not need, you need a careful balance. So he's a big advocate of plant-based. So you need to eat not just legumes, but you need legumes, seeds, nuts, and he's a big believer, it seems like, in olive oil. But he also says, after 65 years old, you should increase your protein by a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. I'm not sure. I don't want to qualify that here on this podcast. But if you're worried about your health and you think your family history suggests that you're a candidate for cancer, I mean, my mom had breast cancer, so I'm definitely on the list as a candidate. So whatever we can do to mitigate that risk, we know exercise is good. From Dr. Valter Longo's, I mean, this guy is the authority on the subject from my point of view. Reducing your protein intake 50, and he'll say, I think 50, 60 grams a day, which is, he also mentions to keep half of your protein intake in one meal, and then the other half you can kind of sprinkle it in. And that's pretty consistent with what I've learned. And even someone like him, and say, hey, you should talk to your nutritionist, etc., about a balanced diet. And I would suggest the same. But I will do my best in future episodes, maybe give you guys a framework. I can even put that in the show notes later, just a framework of how much protein you should take in daily. But his whole, I actually shouldn't do that, because his research is saying that we may no longer call protein 5 years from now or 10 years from now. We might be calling it amino acids, the type of amino acids we're taking. So I don't want to confuse you, but I'll highlight this a bit more on future episodes. So yeah, I mean, the takeaway today on a Saturday is we're all concerned about cancer. We're all at risk of cancer. What can we do to reduce our risk of cancer? Guys, gals, Move more. Eat a bit less. Eat less protein. I know it's counterintuitive. Eat as close to what your ancestors ate. That was healthy. I qualify. That was healthy. And, do your tests. Test frequently. Make sure you do your colonoscopy. Get your PSA test. Don't wait till the doctor tells you. Remember, it's not your doctor's responsibility to take care of your health. You need to take care of your health, not your wife, not your kids, not your parents. It's your responsibility. Don't make it someone else's burden to take care of you in health. We have control over that. There's genetics, there's epigenetics. We have to do our best. Sometimes the genetics gets the best of us, and that's where family will come in and help you, right? But we have to do our very best. Have a great Saturday, guys. Appreciate it. All right. Paying homage to the scientists of Association of Leisure, Time, Physical Activity with risk of 26 types of cancer and 1.44 million adults. Stephen C. Moore, Iman Lee, Elizabeth Widerpass, Peter T. Campbell, Joshua Sampson, Kerry Kitahara, Sarah Keto, Hannah Arem, Amy Barrington de Gonzalez, Patricia Hartgay, Hans Olof Adami, Cindy Blair, Kristen B. Borch, Eric Boyd, David P. Check, Agnes Fournier, Neil Friedman, Mark Gunter, Matthias Johannesson, K.T. Kahl, Martha S. Linnet, Nicola Orsini, Jix-Yung Park, Elio Briboli, Kim Robian, Catherine Sherrier, Howard Sesso, Michael Spriggs, Roy Van Dusen, Elijah Wolk, Charles E. Matthews, Alpa V. Patel. Great, thanks.